The Capital Raiser Show, Season 5, powered by the Family Office Club. I'm your new host, Weston Walker, and we interview only the best investment managers and entrepreneurs. Shout out to our sponsors, the Family Office Club, Capitalist Pro, and Invest Next. Today we have a little bit different of a guest for you guys, Derek Tschilar. He is our realtor at Realty One Group, and he's the Rookie of the Year at the company. And he has gained 500,000 commissions in the past 2 years. So he's going to give us some sales processes today, go into his background a little bit, and have direct strategies that are applicable to raising capital for private real estate deals. So Derek, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Of course. Yeah, so go into a little bit about your background in sales and how you got into real estate, finding clients to work with and iterating on your sales process.
Absolutely. So, my sales journey started when I dropped out of college when I was 19. I just hated school. And so I stumbled upon a job interview on Indeed.com and basically just ended up in the car dealership or uh, the car industry for about 8 years. So I sold both brand new cars and used cars, but a majority of my car journey was selling used vehicles, and then I'd say about for the last 4 years I wanted to get into real estate, and it was really difficult managing, working as much as I did at the dealership and studying to get my license. So eventually I just quit, and then I just was like, I'm just gonna be a full-time, agent, even though I'm not licensed yet.
Sure. Yeah, so you got into real estate. I mean, what drove you to want to sell houses and what got you to get that start as, the rookie of the year at the company?
Yeah, to be honest with you, they don't tell you like how slow the money is, especially when you're like trying to learn things on your own. So, there's a big lag time for building your business in real estate, whereas when you're selling vehicles, you're getting, you're making sales every single day. And so, having the confidence that I had, I didn't realize just how long it would actually take to break ground and to start to generate revenue, in real estate. And furthermore, when I joined the industry, I was thinking more like a real estate agent rather than an entrepreneur or a business owner. Which once I shifted my mindset, I saw a big shift in my revenue, my systems, and just being more organized and doing the right things in my business. Because before, like I said, when I was a new real estate agent, you don't know what you're doing wrong until you stumble upon a good mentor or just trial and error. And so just strengthening a lot of my weaknesses in my business, and like I said, just that shift into thinking more like a business owner as opposed to just a real estate agent, helped me out a lot.
Sure. Yeah, so what are the systems you have in place? I mean, the first time I met you, you were kind of bragging about all the systems you have, how many leads you have coming in, how you cold call and close them. So what's your strategy there?
So my strategy starts with, first of all, my thought process is that not in a house business. I'm in a real estate lead generation business. So I think any business sells whatever. You're in a lead generation business, so you always need to be finding your next client. Especially as a real estate agent, you wake up unemployed and you meet with people to employ you for your services that you offer. And so being a real estate agent has a lot to do with just finding new business, getting interviewed for that business, them hiring you for your services, and then rinse and repeat. So going back to your question, what systems did I implement? Well, my first year really was just cold calling as many people as possible. I didn't know what I was doing, and you had an extremely successful car salesman, with a lot of confidence going into a brand new industry, thinking that I could wing it. Well, it certainly humbled me because, real estate is a slow process. I might meet someone that wants to buy or sell a house in 8 months, and I might not see that check for a year. So, um, way, way different business model. But the first year I just was cold calling and putting as many people as I could meet into my CRM, right? So my goal was to get as just call as many people and put them into my CRM as much as possible, doing tons of follow up and just making a lot of mistakes. I it's crazy how many people I met my first year in real estate. I would just go meet them, just shake their hand. They might not even been ready to do business yet, but I would just meet anyone and everybody because, in the car dealership, it's all about just getting in front of someone, shaking their hand, and, putting a face of the voice on someone that you set an appointment with over the phone. So just meeting with as many people as possible. The second year, I had more. That's when I started to see a big shift in my business because I thought more. I got in the right rooms. I connected with the right entrepreneurs, and I kind of shifted my mindset to become more of a business owner to implement systems that are going to work for me because the reality was is that I was working too hard and it's cliche. I needed to work smarter. I needed to have more than one lead generation avenue to find new clients. And so that's when I stumbled upon pay per click. And I think that's kind of when you and I first met, and there's been really cool changes in the last year and a half with the pay-per-click model when it comes to AI and when it comes to all these changes that they're consistently making, because you can just tailor it to your liking. So you can, for example, you can pay a few $100s for a very well qualified lead that's ready to do business right away, which, historically has never been an option. Or vice versa, you could just have a super open, broad advertisement, and just anyone could click on it, and you could just get more leads, right? So, I kind of just had played around with it, threw a lot of money out of it. It's a great tax write off, and it's just a great tool to have in your business, even if it's just a long term follow up. I just had closed a transaction recently, and it was a year timeline from when I met her, and I had a lot of my AI follow up with her, and I'd call her about once a month, and just keep in touch. And then, sure enough, a whole year passes, and then boom, $18,000 in revenue, just for having a few having maybe a 5-minute conversation monthly with a client that was moving from out of state. And that's another powerful thing about advertising as a real estate agent, is that especially in a market like ours where either there's a bunch of implants, there's a bunch of people moving to our state, um, you're able to tap into all the other states as well and start getting clients and start prospecting outside of Arizona as well. So it's extremely powerful. And it's you're certainly going to dominate the agent that's only tapping into the local market, whereas there's tons of people out there that you can connect with that are looking to make a move here in Arizona.
Sure. Yeah, and you mentioned you played around with pay per click. If someone's hasn't done pay per click and they're looking to get into it for their business as an advertising source for leads, how should they go about testing different ads and playing around with the higher quality leads and then the broader pay per click?
Yeah, absolutely. So my rule of thumb is, set away at least a minimum of 6 figures before you even want to tap into pay per click, for a few reasons. For risk adversement, number one, but secondly, prove to yourself that you can run and operate a business without the pay per click model. Although it's a valuable tool to have in your business, I consider that icing on the cake. You still want to be prospecting and getting as much free business as possible. You want to be calling people and getting your name out there and marketing over the phone as much as possible. So once you develop that skill set over the phone, and you become like a master salesperson, being able to just call someone out of the blue and turn them into a client. Well, how do you think the conversation is going to go when someone literally goes on your website and requests to talk to you? I mean, it's going to be you're going to be able to transition that conversation very smoothly because you've already had spoken to clients in the past that kind of started off on a more cold approach, and now that you kind of have kind of like a middle ground, or kind of a warmer lead, if you want to call it a warmer conversation, you're just going to have a higher conversion rate. So uh, again, set away some money for risk, and then also that way you can kind of play around and throw some money at a few different advertising options and find out what works best for you. I have friends that run video ads, for brand awareness, and I have a completely separate business model. I'm more of like a behind the scenes silent agent, which you never want to be a silent agent, but I'm more of an old school approach where I go in the office and I set appointments, and I track conversions, and I track metrics. And so really what you want to do is you want to have both of those at some point, especially as an agent, because we're all about, building the brand, which is our name, our first and last name. But I'm more revenue focused. I'm still in the building and the stacking phase of my business. And once I kind of have, I think, my first $1 million a year, I'm going to really focus on brand building. And I'm kind of tapping into that, but I'm allocating all my money right now towards as what's going to give me the most revenue as possible.
Gotcha. And what do you think is the strategy for getting the most revenue possible, and where you're putting that money?
So getting the most as much revenue as possible. There's a few different models. So you can be calling as many sellers. It's going to come down to one thing: how much value can you create in your marketplace? Whether that's helping buyers or sellers or both. You don't want to be leaving one side of your business out. That's a whole half of your business, whether that's buyers or sellers, and just finding what the need is in that specific market. Right now, people don't have money. People are not liquid. They do not have liquid funds. And so I've been tapping into down payment assistance models to help people that have a high income job, but for one reason or another, just because of the way the economy is, they don't want to rent, but they have the income, they have the qualifications. Well, we utilize a lot of these grants and these down payment assistance options, and so I'll make advertisements like that for on the buying side, and that's tons of value created in my marketplace. I'm out here helping people get sheltered that are sick of renting. I'm able to get them a lower payment getting into a home, which is absolutely crazy. And a lot of times we're doing it zero out of pocket, and that might sound too good to be true, but realistically, all they're paying is an inspection and an appraisal. So what other market have you seen in the last 2 years before the last 2 years where people were paying $1,000 to get into a home? You haven't seen it. It's because there's all these relief programs that people aren't tapping into, but are there to help them, you know, with the grants and the down payment assistance. And then, of course, the strategy would be, if someone wants to complain about the rate or the current market cycle, the strategy would be, of course, to refinance when it's an appropriate time and when it makes financial sense to do so.
For sure. Yeah, and talk about your AI systems after you cold call people, after you get them in your database. What are the systems you have in place for AI, and what tools do you use?
Absolutely. So I stick to mostly, I want to leverage as much things as possible, but I also want to educate myself about AI. So give me top of my game, especially when it comes to meeting with the seller and showing them what new marketing tools I'll have available in my toolkit to help them, stand out from the competition. But one, for example, which is really cool, if someone goes onto my website and they start searching for a home, my AI is going to kick in. It's going to see what kind of home that this specific client is looking for, and it's going to start sending them homes in that zip code at that specific square footage. And so when you have a high lead volume like I do, where you're getting 5 to 10 minimum leads a day, and I'm running my own business, I'm out doing showings, whatever. Sometimes I fall behind on making calls and introducing myself to new clients. My AI kind of kicks in to make sure that those guys are taken care of with text messages. So that would be another one, is that it'll just have a full on conversation with clients over text messaging. And now AI is never going to replace you or always say the exact right thing, but it does about 60% of what it should say. And it's pretty decent. It's improved a lot over the last year. Another AI tool would be just recently ChatGPT just utilizing. I don't think a lot of people know this, but you can virtually render pictures in ChatGPT, and what I mean by that is you can literally change the color of paint on the walls inside of a home. You can change the floor plan. You can virtually render your a house to make it look different, or you can virtually stage it all for free with ChatGPT. So those are just a few that I'm using right now, that I can think of off the top of my head. And like I said, I hired an AI company to actually go into the system that I use and integrate all these text messages and the emailing and all these different things that that they do full time and that they're a lot more educated on. And I just focus on what I do best, which is just calling people and trying to help them find a home.
Sure. Yeah, and talk about your strategy. Say, maybe, I mean, maybe we could do a role play on the podcast. Probably not, but say you're calling someone. What does the conversation look like? First call, maybe it's a warm lead. Someone goes to your website, they put in their phone number, and you give them a call. So what does that look like?
Okay, so it would be like, hey John, this is Derek with PhoenixAreaHouseSearch.com. How you doing today? And
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Hey, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I wanted to see if you had a few minutes to go over your home search.
Sure. Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, I seen you were looking at this 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom here in Phoenix. That's a great choice. Uh, and you always want to compliment too what they're looking at, by the way. I learned that in car sales. There's some psychology to that, but it's just reassurance that they're making a good decision. If you actually genuinely believe that. Now, if you think it's like a really bad home for them for some reason, don't lie. But I'd say, hey, great choice. And honestly, I would just go. If it seems like a decent opportunity, I would just say like, hey, I'd love to show you this house and just try to, go cold meet them in person. I know a lot of people don't like that model. It's just what's worked for me in the past. If I get in front of someone, they're going to be my client. I've never gone in front of someone and have them not want to work with me. And if they didn't want to work with me, in fact, I've never gone in front of anyone that didn't want to work with me. Like my services were too good for what I had to offer, and I'm talking about like recently, within the last year, not my first year. My first year, I lost a lot of business because they could tell that I didn't have the confidence and I didn't know what I was doing. But I would say that in the last year, everyone that I've got in front of, they've wanted to work with me, or they have already ended up, listing the house with the agent right before I got to the listing appointment. So, but as far as buyers, everyone I get in front of, they work with me.
Gotcha. Are there any sales tactics that you use when you're cold calling people or meeting them in person?
Just sound confident on the phone and don't be afraid to ask for the business and just try to create value on that conversation. So like, hey, I'm noticing this zip code, it's been performing really well. There's not a lot of inventory. You can capitalize on your equity by, doing this. And so just try to create some value. So like with a buyer conversation, hey, there's a great program right now that, we can buy down your interest rate to XYZ, and now I've created value in the conversation, and now I have something to offer that client as opposed to just being, some annoying agent to call them. Now all of a sudden I'm the guy that can get them a 3% lower interest rate than market value. So now they're interested and they're engaged in the conversation. So people call, one mistake I see with salespeople is they have too much of an ego, meaning that they think that person is like obligated to care about them for some reason. And so, it doesn't matter if you're nice. People don't care about people that are nice. People care about people that are confident and that are disciplined. So, no one wants to hire someone for the biggest purchase of their life that's nice. They want someone that's confident, that knows what they're doing, that's going to get the job done, that's knowledgeable and experienced, and it's going to give them isn't going to let them down. That's what people are looking for. So if you can exude that confidence over the phone, you can create value, you can get them excited about something, and maybe this is kind of what transitioned over from the car sales, getting them excited to buy a car, right? People say it's super salesy. Well, it might be, but at the same time, I've created value. They didn't know they can get a 3% lower interest rate than market rate with with an interest rate buy down. So I've offered this client tons of value. I mean, maybe they weren't going to buy a house because of that, that rate, and now all of a sudden, I just made their dreams come true. So, I've offered something exceptional to them that they can refuse.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's just about providing value up front. Totally makes sense.
Providing value.
So talk about your funnels and, say someone goes to your website for the Google pay-per-click, and then how does that look and how do you collect contact info with your CRM?
Yeah, great question. So, I usually last year I did a lot of Google pay per click, and I hired a company to run the ads for me. So they would just rank on Google, and it would just bring them to certain forums on my website. Now I'm doing only Facebook and Instagram for the time being, and the reason for that is that people are just a little bit more qualified, I've seen on Facebook and Instagram in the last 6 months. And so, my whole thought process is if it's working really well, I'm just gonna throw money, I'm gonna throw fire at whatever works, right? I'm gonna keep throwing money at whatever works until, it's causing an issue in my business. It's not making financial sense to, keep putting money into these ads. So it didn't make sense for me to continue the Google ads right now on top of the Facebook and the Instagram. But the Facebook and the Instagram are more local ads as well. So the area of opportunity that I am missing is your nationwide ads for, out of state buyers that are planning to move to Arizona. So at some point I will turn those back on. But yeah, as far as like the ad forms and the funnels, The ones on Instagram and Facebook, they have to answer a lot of questions. And I think the reason you asked me this is because this is, I think, what I was showing you when we had first met. It's kind of out of the blue. And it's funny because now we became good friends. We're both entrepreneurs. We have a lot in common. It's great. But I showed you like how qualified I would make my leads. And so I am running something similar. So anyone that comes through on my lead form, I know exactly what kind of income and credit they have. And people that I don't disqualify people in any way, shape, or form that don't fill out the forms to my liking. They just go in a separate funnel. I have a long term funnel and I have a short term funnel. And so really what I've done with the AI is I've created a really great opportunity for today business, which this is a long term follow up relationship business. And before AI, there wasn't really an opportunity to find clients that are wanting to buy right away unless you partnered with like Realtor.com, Zillow, any of these big monopolized websites that are extremely untrustworthy. But it's a whole nother conversation. So I basically was able to find clients that, for example, let me give you an example. Last week, 3 people came through my lead form. They're now qualified. We're looking at homes, and by next week, it'll turn into actual revenue. It'll go under contract, and then in a month it'll turn into actual revenue. And so we've never seen something like that before in real estate, where you can get people that are ready to go right away. You can call sellers that maybe they just
Sure.
had their property on the market, it didn't sell successfully, and you can call them and maybe you can get their business to retry to list their home. But in terms of like pay per click, there's really never been anything before that saying like, hey, I'm ready to go right away. I wanna buy or sell a house right away. Here's my info. Call me. And so it's the best. It's the greatest. It's the easiest conversation you're gonna have. They've already qualified themselves. It's got like a 50% conversion rate, which is unheard of. And I'm getting a lot of my business from that right now. And it's bound to change because if Meta catches on, it's a little overpowered. So if Meta or Instagram catches on, maybe they'll ban it or something. Um, I know Zillow and all these large corporations, if they found out about something like this, they would just lose their mind. But
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And we're talking about, a lot of sales, people think it's about building these long-term relationships, but it seems like you've already qualified the leads up front and the sales cycle is much shorter than, people think it is. And so that's kind of the way that you do it, is qualifying leads and then having that value added conversation, the first time you speak with them. And so what do those ads look like on Facebook and Instagram? Are they, text-based ads or, video ads? What do those look like?
great question. So I've never had any luck with video ads, but I do plan to utilize those when I'm looking to do like brand building content. And but I've always just used picture ads. And so now with again with AI, you just tell AI whatever ad you want it to make you, and you just do it like 50 times till you have what you think would look like a really good ad. And so these ads are just like property searches or get a free home valuation, whatever it might be. But every once in maybe 10 people or whatever are going to qualify the form to every single question to my liking for it to come through on one funnel. On the second funnel, it gets rerouted and it goes into like a long-term follow-up situation. And I'm still going to try to earn their business. Long-term follow-up will never go out of style. That's always going to be a crucial part of your business. But there's also a whole brand new area of opportunity of unserved clients that are looking to buy right away that don't have an agent. And so it's a really overpowered because first of all, we're a high ticket business. Second of all, these are costing me like $40 a lead. So for every $80, I'm generating anywhere from 8,000 to 15,000. And so someone that might watch this might be in disbelief, but it's literally brand new to where like it's like weeks old. But it's been working extremely well. I thought I was getting really lucky until I'm on like my eighth one down. I'm like, no, this is like this is gonna pop off. So I'm focusing a lot of my time and my energy on this specific clientele. I focus on all clientele. I gotta be careful about what I say, but I'm focusing my business model around helping people that are ready to buy or sell right away. Just because we're more in a buyer's market, there's a lot of listings. People are ready to pull the trigger on something. Transactions are still up. There's still a lot of transactions. So it's a really weird market that we've been in, but there's a lot of movement, more movement than people think. And so if I can get 100 people to come through this forum, and all I have to do is go meet with them, show them that I'm competent and that I want to work with them, I want to help them. And hey, by the way, in my legal contract, I negotiate the seller to pay me, or I don't get paid anything. So I'm all based on performance. So I offer them a virtually unbeatable offer, and 99% of the times it's a no-brainer. They'll sign my legal agreement with me, which we now have to get signed. And some of these I even get paid above what a lot of agents get paid. I probably shouldn't say, but I have a whole strategy on the buying side that's been working out really well. I've been getting an insane amount of repairs negotiated for my buyers. So back to the point. Yeah, it's just working phenomenally, and until I just don't have a reason to dabble in anything else. If like something is working this well, I'm just gonna kind of increase it until I hit diminishing returns. But I have about two that come through a day right now because of the way the ad works, and then one of those two will end up being a new client, which is pretty crazy to think about. There's people out there that sell 5 to 6 homes a year. I'm not knocking them, but I'm just saying to have this much power in my hands is a massive blessing and an opportunity that, I'm not going to take lightly. And I'm just going to meet with as many of these people as possible and try to just build my brand recognition around all of my past clients that I found rather than kind of tapping into, people that I may have grown up with or like my friends or family. I have people literally knocking on my door to do business with me, and it's just an incredible opportunity, and I'm very fortunate to have this.
It's awesome. Yeah, and so I mean, besides too many leads coming to you with the $40 to $60 per lead, what's holding you back from cranking that advertising up? Um, besides taking too many leads on.
Um, there's not anything other than the algorithm on how Facebook and Instagram works, and so Facebook and Instagram, they want your money and they want your ad to work, but they also don't care if your ad doesn't work. And so what I've noticed is that there's a sweet spot. I won't say how much I have my ad spend on a day, but there is a sweet spot that if you go above that, they'll start to pull uh not a lower lead quality, but they'll start to get a little crazy with it. And so I have it down to where it's working so well. Like I don't want to mess it up because what's cool about Facebook right now is that it has AI. So it'll pick up on the exact type of client that you're looking for. And the longer you leave it running, the more it optimizes. So she's consistently optimizing to find the clients that you want to speak with. So the longer this ad has been running, the more successful it's been for me. And so um I do actually want to crank it up, but the reality is that I have over 3,500 leads in my CRM right now as we speak. So if I were to only, let's say, close, um, you know, 1% of that, I mean, I'm always behind. So I don't even need more leads. It's just I don't even have time in my day to like handle more leads. But the goal is to systemize this, to get a buyer's agent or to get a virtual assistant to help me put time back into my day and have them focus on more administrative tasks or appointment setting. Because these aren't like calling like, oh, you like, trying really hard to get an appointment. Like these are people that like want to meet with me right away. So I'll hop on a Zoom call with them or I'll meet at an office with them and we'll get down to business right away. And by the way, this isn't like the easiest type of client, like 800 credit score, $100,000 down, great ratios. These are like work in progress clients that take the right agent and the right lending team. And it's a lot of sweat equity. Like it's not for every agent because I opened this up to all of Arizona. So I don't know what my day's gonna look like. Any given day I can go have to drive an hour to show a house to a brand new client. But I know it's gonna be worth it because we've already qualified them and I already know the logistics of their move. And so, some of these people, their lease just ended and they're like, hey, I'll buy a house with you if you can find me a house in 5 days. And it's like, Jesus, like Like but I'm the guy that's gonna say yes to an opportunity like that because it's worked out well before.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, you have the systems to scale. So what are your next plans to kind of build your business out, maybe hire people? What are your plans there?
Yeah, I would love to hire some virtual assistants to take care of some administrative work and to just help put time back in my day and just organize my processes a little bit better. I'm always currently navigating through, the market cycle and testing what works and what doesn't work at the time. The reason I had to turn Google Ads off is I was getting a lot of out of state buyers that I would talk to for 8 to 9 months, 10 months, sometimes a year. And just there's so much that changed in our economy the last 2 years that people's plans changed dramatically from a year to 2 years. So I might talk to them, do a Zoom call with them, get to know them for a year, and then I might have spent a lot of time, and all of a sudden they're not going to be able to make a move after all, or they decided on a different state, or they're just scared because of the economy or whatever, um whatever that might be. But I'm going to keep my eye, and I'm going to consistently learn. I'm in some discords right now for AI, just kind of keeping my eye out for whatever new software, whatever new developments are coming out, and just keeping really up to date on that, keeping up to date on the rates and the market. But as far as systems, the next goal would be getting like a full time buyer agent because I would love to scale my business being like more of a listing agent. But the way it is right now, there's tons of buyers, and there's so much business on the buy side that I haven't had as much time as I'd like to focus on sellers.
Awesome. Yeah, and if anyone's looking to get in contact with you, Derek, where should they reach you?
They could go to phoenixareahousesearch.com, or they could Google me, and I have a Google My Business, or we can just put my information somewhere. But phoenixareahousesearch.com is my website.
Awesome. Sounds good. We'll put that in the description below. Cool. Well, thank you for coming on, Derek. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, brother. It was a pleasure. I appreciate it.